1962, a small, drafty dressing room on a studio lot in Culver City, 5 in the morning. The fluorescent mirror lights buzz to life, casting a harsh glare on a young actress shivering in a thin silk robe. The air smells sharply of strong hairspray mixed with the faint, waxy scent of cheap cold cream. She reaches not for an expensive Parisian serum, but for a heavy glass bowl filled with crushed ice and tap water. The ice clinks softly as she plunges her bare face into the freezing water, shocking her skin awake for the cameras. But the strange part is this: nothing on her vanity looked expensive. Millions of women watching her on screen assumed she used the most luxurious products in the world. The reality? Her greatest beauty secret was sitting in a 10-cent jar from the local drugstore. These habits vanished not because they failed, but because they were simply too cheap to sell. These are 15 vanished Hollywood beauty tricks from the 1960s that still work perfectly today. Now, before we dive in, tap that subscribe button. You will not want to miss what is coming next. Today, we are surrounded by endless aisles of expensive serums, complicated routines, and chemical peels. We are told that beauty requires a 12-step process and a small fortune. But the glamorous women of the 1960s, the ones with flawless skin and perfect hair on the silver screen, knew something we have forgotten. They relied on simple household items, patience, and quiet discipline. The deeper you look, the less old-fashioned these habits seem. What disappeared was not the result. It was the knowledge around it. The beauty industry simply could not profit off a teaspoon, a jar of Vaseline, or an ice cube. As we count down these 15 forgotten secrets, you will notice a pattern. By the time we reach number 1, you will realize that the ultimate Hollywood beauty trick was never a product at all, and the countdown starts exactly where most mornings used to begin: at the bathroom sink. Number 15, the ice water face dive. Long before celebrities were selling vibrating jade rollers and cryotherapy facial globes, screen legends like Joan Crawford relied on something far more brutal and entirely free: a bowl of ice water. In the early hours before a long day of shooting, actresses would fill a porcelain basin with tap water, dump in a handful of ice cubes, and plunge their faces entirely underwater. The sensation was a sharp, biting cold that immediately tightened pores and reduced morning swelling. There was no gentle massaging, just the breathless shock of freezing water. Today, the beauty industry packages this exact physiological reaction into expensive frozen tools. But in the 1960s, women knew that the plumbing and a freezer were all the equipment they needed. Number 14. Vaseline is the ultimate highlighter. If you look closely at the glamorous studio portraits of the era, the women always had a dewy, almost ethereal glow on their cheekbones and eyelids. You might assume it came from a high-end Parisian cosmetic house. It did not. The secret was a simple layer of petroleum jelly. Marilyn Monroe was famously known to apply a thin smear of Vaseline under her powder to catch the studio lights. The heavy, greasy texture might sound terrifying to modern consumers obsessed with oil-free matte finishes, but it worked flawlessly. It reflected light beautifully, locked in moisture, and cost pennies. The industry eventually sold us tiny compacts of highlighter for $40, replicating the exact sheen of a 50-cent tin. Number 13. The strawberry and baking soda polish. A brilliant white Hollywood smile did not always come from a dentist's chair. Many actresses used a homemade paste of crushed ripe strawberries mixed with a pinch of baking soda. The malic acid in the fruit acted as a natural astringent, while the baking soda provided a gritty abrasive. You could taste the sour sweetness on your tongue, feeling the fine, chalky grit as you rubbed it over your teeth with a toothbrush. It was a quick, cheap fix before a close-up. Notice how the first few secrets did not come from a department store. They came from the kitchen and the medicine cabinet. These women did not look at a problem and immediately ask, "What can I buy?" They asked, "What do I already have?" It was a subtle but profound kind of self-reliance that modern marketing has worked very hard to erase. Number 12. Sleeping in silken rollers. Today, women rely on high-heat styling tools that damage hair instantly, only to buy expensive repair serums to fix it later. In the 1960s, the approach was different. It required patience. Women would spend 30 minutes every night carefully winding their hair into stiff plastic rollers, securing them with metal pins, and wrapping their heads in a silk scarf to prevent frizz. Sleeping on those hard cylinders was famously uncomfortable. You could feel the rigid plastic pressing against your scalp every time you turned over. But this discipline meant you woke up with voluminous, styled hair that lasted for days without ever touching a burning iron. It was a trade-off, physical discomfort at night for effortless glamour during the day. Number 11. The warm olive oil hair soak. For actresses who needed deep conditioning after enduring harsh studio lights and stiff hairsprays, the answer was, once again, found in the pantry. Sophia Loren famously swore by rubbing warm olive oil into her hair. Women would heat a small pan of olive oil on the stove until it was just warm to the touch, massaging the heavy, earthy-smelling liquid into their roots before wrapping their hair in a thick, hot towel. The rich scent of the kitchen would fill the bathroom. It was messy, and it required washing out thoroughly, but it left the hair incredibly resilient. Modern hair masks try to mimic this deep nourishment, often charging a premium for an ingredient that has been sitting on our counters all along. But as we move further down the list, these tricks leave the sink and move over to the vanity table, where the rules of illusion become even more precise. Number 10. The teaspoon eyelash curler. Before mechanical metal clamps and battery-operated heated wands became standard, actresses relied on a simple teaspoon. You would hold the curve of a metal spoon against a warm light bulb for just a few seconds, checking it against the back of your hand so it would not burn. Then, using your thumb, you pressed your lashes against the warm edge. The gentle heat of the kitchen silverware curled the lashes perfectly. It was not a tool you bought, it was a skill you learned. The result was a wide-eyed, natural sweep that no clamping mechanism could replicate without breaking the delicate hairs. Number 9. White eyeliner on the waterline. After 18-hour days under blazing studio lights, eyes grew red and tired. The solution was not a magical drop, but a soft, chalky white eyeliner pencil dragged carefully along the inner waterline. It instantly neutralized the redness and made the eyes appear significantly larger on camera. It was a masterclass in optical illusion. Today, companies market brightening sticks with complex formulas, but in the 1960s, a standard white pencil did the exact same job without the marketing jargon. By this point, the pattern is no longer just about solving physical problems. It is about the environment these women created. The vanity table was not just a place to apply color. It was a private laboratory where patience yielded results. Number 8. Talcum powder in the roots. Modern aerosol dry shampoos are convenient, but they are full of alcohols and chemical propellants. Before they existed, women handled oily roots with ordinary talcum powder or cornstarch. They would sprinkle the white dust lightly over their scalp, enjoying the clean, powdery scent. But the secret was in the labor. You had to brush it out. Sitting in front of the mirror, a woman would take a stiff, boar bristle brush and stroke her hair 50, sometimes 100 times, distributing the oil and the powder until it vanished completely. It took time, but the hair was left soft, voluminous, and genuinely clean, not coated in sticky residue. Number 7. Sea salt and lemon juice for nails. In the 1960s, smoking was ubiquitous, even on movie sets, which often left nails yellowed and brittle. Instead of masking the damage with thick acrylics, actresses treated the root cause. They would soak their fingertips in a small dish of warm water, sharp lemon juice, and coarse sea salt. You could feel the slight sting of the citrus and the grit of the salt against your cuticles. Sitting quietly while your hands soaked forced a moment of stillness into a chaotic day. The acid naturally bleached the stains, while the minerals strengthened the nail bed from the outside in. Number 6. Castor oil for thicker brows. Today, the pursuit of bold eyebrows involves microblading, tattooing, and expensive growth serums. Back then, women aiming for that full, expressive Audrey Hepburn look turned to a thick, sticky liquid. Castor oil. Every night before bed, they would dip a cotton swab or a clean spoolie into the heavy oil and trace it over their brows and lash lines. It was a slow, nourishing process that required weeks of discipline to see results. They did not paint on an illusion for the day. They fed the hair to grow it for the future. But the next few rules move beyond mere maintenance. As we enter the top 5, The habits transition from physical beauty tricks into something far more intimate: identity, posture, and the quiet ways a woman claimed her space. Number 5. Baby oil body gloss. When actresses stepped onto the red carpet or appeared in a swimsuit on screen, their skin possessed an almost liquid reflective sheen. Today, achieving that look requires $40 bottles of specialized body shimmer filled with synthetic mica. In the 1960s, the secret was a 50-cent bottle of baby oil. After a warm bath, while the skin was still slightly damp, women would rub a generous layer of the slippery, clear oil over their legs, shoulders, and collarbones. It locked in moisture and caught every flash bulb and studio light perfectly. There was a profound cleverness in this. They took a utilitarian product designed for infants, stripped away its intended purpose, and used it to project pure, unadulterated glamour. It was the ultimate proof that you did not need to be rich to look like $1 million. You just needed to understand how light worked. Number 4. Layering the scent, the fragrance cloud. Modern perfume is often loud. It is sprayed quickly onto the neck right before running out the door, announcing a person's arrival long before they speak. But the women of this era understood that a scent should be a whisper, not a shout. They practiced something called fragrance layering. It started in the tub with a perfume soap, followed by a matching dusting powder or body lotion rubbed slowly into the skin. Finally, a tiny dab of pure perfume was applied only to the pulse points, the wrists behind the ears and the backs of the knees. The result was not a sharp chemical scent, but a soft, warm cloud that lingered in a hallway long after she had passed. It was a practice rooted in consideration, both for herself and for the people she stood close to. The closer we get to number 1, the less this is about what these women bought and the more it is about the standards they kept. These were not just physical habits. They were quiet, daily rituals of self-respect. Number 3. The face shave. Elizabeth Taylor and Marilyn Monroe shared a secret that the modern beauty industry recently repackaged and sold as a $200 spa treatment called dermaplaning. In reality, it was just a careful face shave. Using a single sharp razor blade and a light layer of lather, these women would meticulously scrape away the invisible peach fuzz and dead skin cells from their faces. The sensation was terrifyingly precise. The quiet rasping sound of metal against the cheek, demanding absolute stillness. But this ritual created a flawlessly smooth canvas. Powder and foundation did not sit on top of the hair. It melted directly into the skin, creating that famous, impossibly perfect studio glow. It required no high-tech equipment, only courage and an incredibly steady hand. What looks small from the outside often carries the heaviest meaning. And as we move to the final 2 secrets, we leave the realm of physical beauty almost entirely. The tools fade away, leaving only the woman, her mirror, and a legacy passed from mother to daughter. Number 2. The cold cream massage ritual. For a Hollywood actress, or indeed any woman of the era, the most important beauty ritual did not happen in the bright morning light. It happened at night, in absolute quiet solitude. After the cameras stopped rolling, or after the house finally went to sleep, she would sit before the mirror and unscrew the heavy lid of a white glass jar. Usually it was Pond's or Noxema. The scent was unmistakable, a clean, medicinal, waxy fragrance that immediately signaled the end of the day. She would scoop out a thick, heavy dollop of the freezing cold cream and begin to massage it into her skin. But there was a strict discipline to this method. You never pulled the skin down. Every stroke of her fingertips was deliberate, sweeping upward against gravity, slowly dissolving the heavy grease paint, the powder, and the exhaustion. Wiping it away with a soft tissue, she left her face raw, clean, and breathing. This was not a quick swipe of a disposable makeup wipe while distracted by a television. It was a disciplined unwinding. It was the physical act of taking off the armor she wore for the world and returning to herself. And now we reach the one that explains all the others. The closer we look at these vanished habits, the more we realize that the greatest secret of the 1960s could not be bought in a drugstore. The final rule was never just about an object, it was about what happened around it. Number 1. The posture book balance. If you look at the screen sirens of the mid-century, Or even just look at old photographs of your own grandmother. There is something fundamentally different about how they look. It is not their makeup. It is not the cut of their dresses. It is their stillness. It is the exact way they held their shoulders. Behind closed doors, away from the cameras, mothers were teaching their daughters the most vital beauty trick of all, walking down a narrow hallway with a heavy hardcover book balanced on the crown of their head. They were taught to glide, not stomp, to keep their chin parallel to the floor, their core engaged, and their back perfectly straight. This quiet practice transformed the entire architecture of a woman's presence. Today, we spend our days hunched over glowing screens, our shoulders rolled forward. And then we spend fortunes on serums and clothes trying to buy back the elegance that posture naturally provides. But when a 1960s woman sat at a vanity mirror, she did not slouch. When she walked into a room, she commanded it without making a sound. Somewhere in a quiet bedroom with the door cracked open, a young girl watched her mother sit tall in front of a mirror, absorbing a standard that required no money at all. It was not vanity, it was dignity, it was not a product, it was an inheritance. And it was the one thing the beauty industry could never figure out how to put in a bottle. The objects fade away, the ice, the jars, the metal spoons, but the quiet strength behind them remains. These 15 tricks, from the biting shock of ice water to the quiet weight of a posture book, did not vanish because they failed. They vanished because they required patience, and because they were simply too cheap to build a $1 billion industry upon. What we really lost was not the glass jars of cold cream, the boar bristle brushes, or the warm metal spoons. What we lost was the discipline, the stillness, the unspoken mother-to-daughter teaching that happened in the soft, intimate glow of a vanity mirror. We traded self-reliance for modern convenience, and in doing so, we forgot that true glamour is a cultivated skill, not a quick purchase. But somewhere, a heavy glass jar still sits on a porcelain sink. Somewhere, a mother is still telling her daughter to stand up straight before she walks out the door. And without a single word, the lesson begins again. Which of these vanished beauty habits do you remember your mother or grandmother using? Share your memories with us in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please like, subscribe, and click the video on your screen to discover more forgotten secrets from the past.